Billy. Thundering is very loud. I'm scared.
Oh, my baby. Come here, Rohit. Don't be scared. We are safe in our house.
Aye, I feel so happy and safe when you're near me. But what happens to the animals in this season?
They live safely in their shelters.
They don't have vents. How can they build their shelters?
Hmm. You're very curious. Why don't you read this book to get information about shelters of animals?
But what if I don't understand something?
Let's do one thing. I'll finish my chores and explain.
Okay. Hello friends. My name is Rohit. My mother gave me a book to read. But the more I read, more questions come into my mind. I was curious to know about the shelters of animals, and my mother explained it to me. Listen to what she said.
Children, have you ever observed different animals live in different kinds of shelters? Let's learn some more details about animal shelters. Rohit, it is still raining outside, yet you are feeling safe here. This tells us, why do we need homes? We live in houses to protect ourselves from very cold weather, gusty winds, scorching sun, heavy rains, and thieves. Some people live very close to forests. They have to face the threat of wild animals. A house protects them from the wild animals too. Shelters of animals are of three types. Some animals find ready shelters at safe places in the environment. Some animals build shelters for themselves. And people build shelters for domestic animals. Let us first see which animals build shelters for themselves. The birds, rats and mice, and some insects too build own shelter. We'll begin with birds. Birds build own shelters. Their shelters are called nests. They need a safe place to lay their eggs as they are scared of the animals that eat eggs. When the eggs hatch, the young birds come out of the eggs. These birds are so weak that they cannot defend themselves. They cannot protect themselves from the animals that eat the young birds. Thus, the nest keeps the eggs and the young birds safe. We human beings use materials like bricks, cement, wood to build our houses. See, what do the birds use? The birds use things like grass, straw, twigs, cotton wool, and pieces of thread and string. This makes their nest soft and warm inside. They choose a convenient place to build their nest. There is a lot of variety amongst the birds, so their nests are also different. See, this is how weaver birds choose place very thoughtfully. They choose a thorny tree which has some branches hanging over water. It builds its nest on the highest of these branches. So, the animals that eat eggs find it difficult to reach this nest. Thus, thorns protect them from crawling animals and the water below protects them from the other animals. Let's take one more example of the teller bird. Do you know a teller bird is smaller than a sparrow? Yet it has an amazing skill of sewing. It selects a plant with bigger leaves and builds its nest by stitching the leaves together. Children, it uses fine tendril to stitch them together. This little nest is big enough for the little teller bird. See how beautifully it sews? There are some insects which build their shelters. By now you know that a honeybee is an insect. It is much tinier than birds. Honeybees build their honeycombs on trees or an overhanging cliff. Ants are also insects. They build ant hills. Like honeybees, ants can also be seen working tirelessly. Let's know, where does a snake live? If this is an anthill, then where does a snake live? We often mistake an anthill as a shelter of snakes. It is not right. Snakes live in holes. This is one more animal which lives in a hole or a burrow. It often appears in the night. Can you tell me which animal is it? Yes, it's a mouse. Rats and mice live underground in fields. They dig into the soil and make holes and burrows to live in. They also live in areas where people live. They make holes in the walls or under the floors in houses. They mostly take shelter in mud houses and not in those built with cement. That is because they cannot dig holes into cement construction. So far, we have seen animals which build their own shelters. Now let's learn about the animals that find ready shelters. Some animals do not build their own shelter. They simply look around for a safe place in forests or in small hollows, in trees or in high cliffs. Some animals find shelter in gaps in walls. Take an example of doves and pigeons to understand this. We can observe the pigeons very easily around us. They live in forests, some in hollows in high cliff, or some near our houses in gaps in walls. Isn't it a very common sight? Wild animals like tigers, leopards, and hyenas also find ready shelters. They all live in caves. Some bats live in tall trees, some live in dark caverns in mountains, and some live in old deserted tumble-down buildings. Do you know? Bats cannot see anything, so they fly in the night when there is no obstruction in their way. There are some animals which live in man-made shelters. We keep some animals for our use. We call them as domestic animals. It is our duty to take care of them. So, we build shelters for them. A cowshed is built for cows. Shelter of a hen is called a chicken coop or hen house. A stable is built for a horse. We keep some animals as pets too. So, we build shelters for them. Here are a few examples. A dog lives in a kennel. Birds are kept in cages. Rabbits are also kept in cages. Rats and mice are unusual pets and they are kept in cages too. Or their shelter is also called as a pet house. Fish are kept in a fish tank or a pond or an aquarium. So far, we have learned many things in this lesson. Let's revise them one by one. We need a shelter to protect ourselves from harsh weather, thieves, and wild animals. Very much like us, animals also need a shelter to protect themselves from the cold, wind, sun, and rain. Some animals build their own shelters. Some animals look for ready shelters in their surroundings. We build shelters for the animals we keep. Before we conclude, here is some food for thought. Is it right to keep animals in cages for our pleasure? What do you think? No, we should let them live in their natural surroundings. The way we are safe in our own houses, they are safe in their natural surroundings. Sometimes wild animals come into villages and towns. What is the reason behind this? Human beings cut forests for farming, building houses, and for various reasons. So, the animals in the jungles lose their shelter and sources of food. Then they go to villages and towns in search of food and water. So, let's plant more and more trees with the help of elders. Avoid cutting forests and till then, use paper wisely. Bye.